And Mackie Shiny side out on WZZR, coming to you from Australia for Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com. Home to fresh, unadulterated ideas and conversations in the chat room, and a place to get your merch. This is show number 500. 500, Dave?
It sure is. That's 00 and 500.
500. Catch us on air, online, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere, or listen at home on a Grace Tabletop Digital Radio in the comfort of your own chair. If you missed the last show, she had Dave Scorpio. He also has a show on Revolution Radio, and I think it's show number 87, if I heard correctly. That's okay if you missed it. That's all right. It's okay because you can catch her on the archives. Right, just go ahead and sign up for the archives, and I still think it's free. If it isn't, it's just $5 a month, but I think at the moment it's still free. Could be wrong, but I think
should be charging for it, I'll tell you.
I know, right? And you can get all of the hosts with all of their shows. It's really awesome. So if you get a moment, please, go ahead and subscribe. And you can binge, because that's the thing we do now. We binge things. We are bingers. We're a civilization of bingers. I don't, but I think people like to do that. Now, before we get stuck into show number 500, 100. That's a great echo machine. We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. For me, it's the Daruk people, and for Dave,
it's the Darkinjung.
Thank you, sir. And we would also like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. Now, more so than ever, really, looking at the state we're in overall in the world.
New South Wales.
Crazy.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
Just when you're thinking, okay, that's about as crazy as we're gonna get. That's it. We're here. This is not crazy central. Okay, Loon Town. Hello, we're here. Please disembark.
As soon as you go, oh well, wow, this is the peak. It's got to have peaked here. No, it levels up again.
Yeah. This is where the tram stops. This is it. This is Loon Town Central. No. They built another 5 stations further up the track. just keep going. Oh, okay. Really?
Yeah. They don't name them quite as good as they used to, Mackie. Now it's just Extras Crazy Station 1. You pull up at first.
It's like Scomoville.
Next level.
Come on, it's but Biden Gulch. And welcome to Biden Gulch. I like those old Western town names.
Yes.
From the Western
Sweetwater
Gulch and Sweetwater.
Who called this stinking piece of dirt Sweetwater? That's my favorite quote from a movie. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, I love it though. 3-Eyed Coyote Creek. That's where we need to go. But Gulch. I don't know why, but Gulch for me is the pinnacle of what a Western town should be named. Mm-hmm. It's Smithy's Gulch. That's what it is.
Every one of those towns had Boot Hill.
Yeah, that's true enough. This is Hangman's Tree. Now, it is crazy. And I think no, it's good. We can do it. It is interesting though to see things unfold, and you don't even have to be aware of politics, of history, of your place in the world, how things hang together. It is sufficient to just watch it unfold. I want to give you a simple example, Dave. And then I'm going to ask you about your special brand of crazy you've experienced recently. But there was this, first initially when it came out, don't wear masks. Don't wear masks. Masks are bad. In fact, masks are going to make everything worse. Don't wear them. Then, you should wear masks, and you should, if you can, just wear them if you can. And then, you better wear masks. You have to wear masks. And then, if you don't wear masks, you're going to be fined, and we're going to throw you in jail forever. Well, that hasn't happened yet. So it's really the messaging around. And I'm not just talking about the pandemic. I'm not talking just about that, but the messaging around a whole bunch of stuff: climate change, fossil fuel, currencies, the economy, the impact of the pandemic, of course, on all of those things. and our responses and the government's responses and just the craziness that has gone on all over. And the messaging is all over the place. There doesn't seem to be a coherent message. The only message that we have, and this is really important, is to be more afraid of everything. That's the message I'm getting loud and clear, coming in from all corners of the media world. Be more afraid. Fear is good.
Make the chainsaw rustier, Mackie. Remember that quote?
Yes.
It's a Simpsons gag where they're filming an Itchy and Scratchy cartoon, and they have a chainsaw, sound effect, and the guy he goes rustier, and he slides up the slider, and you hear this rustiness come into the sound of it. He goes, yeah, yeah, that's it. That's where I'm currently feeling as though we're at right now, like with fear. It's like,
yeah,
there's not enough fear. Quick, what else can we throw at them?
Sprinkle more baby's blood.
I'm all out of fear powder, sir.
Use your fear stick. What are you doing?
The fear stick, yes.
You feel it? This is not training day.
It's not training day. It's not my review at work.
Yeah. But that's important though. The fear factor is critical. We'll talk about that. I'm not sure.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. So our show notes for this particular show cycle, which we keep updating, which is the hypothesis, is now at 95 pages.
We'll be doing the hypothesis until 600.
Well, possibly.
Look, I joke because I love, right? So
hopefully we'll get through. You never know, right? I mean, if we get sidetracked and such. But it's important because the hypothesis is why we do this. Right? It actually has evolved as we did this show. We always thought that things are connected. Don't get me wrong, right? But the degree with which things are interconnected and feed off each other and rely on each other.
Mackie, you say that so calmly.
I know, right?
So calmly. Oh, the extent to which things are connected. Oh my God! When we went into this? Yes, Mackie. Yeah, we thought some things would be connected, and I think the connections would be, maybe just a little slim at best. No, it's like there's a huge neodymium magnet in the middle pulling everything into it.
Yeah.
Like maybe an 8 kilo neodymium, which you need a crane to remove. Right? They're not getting that off. That's done now. I've seen a guy wrestling with 2 neodymium magnets that are so large that your hand spread out couldn't touch the face entirely of them. And he was a lovely German guy. I can't understand a word he's saying, right? And he gets these 2 wooden wedges and he tries to not make them clunk together because they shatter. And if they do, parts can go everywhere and they're very sharp and they can go inside you. Then your skin can get ripped off and stuff because it's really bad. And he's trying really, really hard. Now, he does it successfully, but even I was sweating watching him trying to manipulate these magnets. Chronic. Now, that's the kind of level or the extent of this connection. Passing it back to you again.
Thank you.
In the calm manner.
But it is true though.
Delivers the message.
It is. I'm the calm guy, right? But it was astounding, and it was everything that is connected. There's this. You can't take any of the phenomena we've discussed, none of the guests we've talked to, there are many, out of context. If you were to take them on their own and just looking at whatever they do or whatever that phenomenon is that you're looking at, you wouldn't understand it wouldn't make any sense. And that's why I think a lot of conspiracy researchers and factists are easy targets because they focus on certain things, and if there's even one flaw with their suppositions and ideas, then they can be taken down hard. And that's really what these debunkers love and live for. They want to take us down. But the more legs you have to stand on, the more connections you draw, the more things you include, the more of a coherent tapestry, theories or strangeness or mysteries or the paranormal. We're now talking about, in the hypothesis, the reality construct we all inhabit, the matrix, if you will, in modern parlance. But more than that, a way maybe out of it, and a reason as to why we're here, and to borrow Morpheus's phrase, to identify and maybe break through the world that has been pulled over our eyes, and the world that we have been fooled into believing is reality. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot going on to distract us. A lot. I mean, we really have to ask ourselves what's important here. You know, where do we focus our attention? There's so many red herrings. It's crazy.
I opened a fish shop.
I know. We'd be rich, Dave. We'd be rich. Red herrings, grilled red herrings all day long for everyone. And we cannot, in good conscience, focus on only one thing and let it be. So in our shows, you will obviously always find us going off on tangents, not because we have a focus deficiency, but rather, in order to understand the bigger picture, you must expand on what you're talking about. We can't always do it justice. It simply isn't possible. Suffice it to say that neither Dave nor I have quite gotten to the bottom of the rabbit hole. Not sure that you could in the context of the multiverse, but certainly I think we plumbed the depth to a sufficient level to instill both awe and fear, but not fear in the sense of terror, but fear in the sense of, I guess, losing oneself, you know, because we are somewhat limited in this reality construct, you know. So look, this is just a preamble, I guess, for Show 500. Dave, what are your thoughts over the last? Well, it's almost actually it is 10 years, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is. I just wanted to throw something out there. It's so silly, to be honest with you. You know, Russia's nearly got 1,000 deaths a day to COVID after being vaccinated. Just saying it, and some of these numbers are staggering. I can see the US is actually declining in its deaths per day, which is really good. Dropping down probably about to 10,000 a week, and that's pretty challenging. But this huge cleansing of the planet, which some have said, I think is an extraordinary thing that I really hadn't. This is in the last 10 years concept now. I really hadn't thought that it would commence. I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't know kind of how. I always thought natural culling was the thing. You know, the disease comes through and yes, it's going to do this and it's done it before, it'll do it again. I thought maybe war would be another way that they could bring the world population down, still end up with viable countries as a result, and then everyone just goes back to normal again. You know, like we have seen in the past centuries wars. I always thought that would be an easy out because, you know, a lot of people make money off it. Yeah, there's a lot of deaths, but the governments just keep going if you think about it that way. Yeah, they just keep plowing on, and all of their economies recover, and we end up back into good times again, and then we end up in a position where we have to do some more culling. You can't just allow the herd to continue to get too big, and otherwise it becomes unmanageable. There was a scientist, Mekki, that had put together a study on what the population expectation would have been if there weren't the first and second, you know, in Korea and Vietnam wars and the Iraq wars. If none of those wars had existed, and we'd been living in total peace without, you know, abating our population levels, that we would easily have hit trillion.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Easily. And you have to then start putting management plans in place because the populations are getting a little out of hand.
The problem is not the population size; it's the distribution of our resources.
That's what we've brought that up 100 times. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's
we
more
can
than
no
enough
longer
food
afford...
currently to have no one starve, except we're only delivering it to those with money.
Bingo, right? And not only that, not only are we doing that, we are destroying surplus, because if we gave it away to people that actually need it, we would depress the global market.
The value
and the
of it
price
goes
of
down.
whatever.
That's right.
Yeah, whatever the commodity would become worthless. Whatever the commodity is, if it's rice or potato or butter, whatever. In Germany, I remember this as a child. They were talking about butter mountains they were destroying.
Wow.
Right? Because in Germany specifically, but European Union in general, the agrarian or the agricultural sector is supported by the government. Okay, they get the grants and so forth, and then they have a surplus, and because they have the surplus, they can't sell it, because if they were to sell it, then they would depress the price, so they have to destroy it. They make their money, all right, and even more than that by getting the government support that they are getting. But the produce is just it just goes to waste. In Australia, 3/4 of what we grow and produce goes overseas. It's exported, right? So we make enough money for I guess 75 million or even 100 million Australians if we had that many. But it's exported, right? Exported. Some other countries are similar, and other countries are net importers. Like Singapore, is a net importer of everything. And it's really, it boggles the mind when you think about it. We see this now. I mean, I'm not saying medical aid. The last continent to get medical aid for anything is Africa. Anything good gets to Africa last, and anything bad gets to Africa first. Okay, that's how it runs.
That's the way the world works.
Yeah, I'm talking about the West now, specifically the West, right? The British, the French, the Germans, the Belgians, etc., Spanish, Italians, whatever. We have raped and pillaged and bled Africa dry. Still are doing it, and I don't see any time soon. I don't see it stopping. Most of the issues that Africa faces now, as a continent, from a political, socioeconomic, and I guess historical point of view, are not African in origin. They are all problems that the West imposed upon them, either on purpose or by accident, but usually through malfeasance and bad government and bad governance, and sometimes deliberate genocide, like in the Congo under the Belgians and King Leopold. So it's a thing, right? It's a thing.
The bad governance includes, is it juntas and military uprisings. So coup d'etats, and you have people just push the government aside, saying, no, we're not going to let you do that. And then, as we've seen, hyperinflation. We've seen, I suppose, reclamation of the lands back to the native people from the original, takeover by Britain, and even to, I have to say German as well. A lot of origin of South African people, and it's African white inhabitants have been pushed off the land. And there is, it probably a total inability to understand how this governance is supposed to work, and collaborative natures. I'm building to a different story, but that collaborative nature and democracy is a very hard place to have as an ideal and have it done right. It sounds easy, but I'll leave that where that is, and I won't elaborate until I get to my actual story. But Meki, I just wanted to say something about about China here, right? Now, this isn't a dig at China at all, but rather China in its current position is having a hard time. So power outages due to coal supply, but the coal supply being sourced locally from its own resources has been held up due to flooding, which has then caused the power shortages. Flooding on its own is terrible, and then that leads to food shortages because of crop destruction, housing destruction because of landslides. There's so many things currently going on in China, and I feel for individuals. I absolutely feel awful for people having to deal with that, and for the authorities trying to deal with it under any regime is very tough. But my point isn't that it's China, that these could all be our problems too. With climate change actually now being recognized by Murdoch and his press agencies, our government is now flying to Glasgow. And I saw a really funny cartoon, Meki. You know when you're waiting at the gate for them to allow you to board a flight? The cartoon had Scott Morrison, our Prime Minister, frantically sweating bullets, writing his policy, his climate policy, and the announcement is the gate for flight blah 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 to Glasgow will be closing in 3 minutes. He goes, "Give me 5 minutes. I'm nearly done," because he's writing this climate policy on the go, and it's funny that where that puts him in position, because he was denying climate was a problem for such a long time, and so were the media for that matter. But now I think the sign that climate change is happening as a message from our government will be recognized by me when I see the National Party talking about it as a real problem. So because at the moment they're saying the National Party in Australia is like the country areas. And they're saying, well, look, we want to be separated from the city. The city is the real problem. We're not the problem. So do what you want to do, whatever you want to do in the cities to control climate change, but don't touch us in the country. That's the current message, but we'll see what happens when I get back. But that was my whole message, is like, because, 2019, Meki, from August through December, we were having fires. And then we had floods. Yeah. And we
but not just any fires, the worst fires ever.
Ever. That's right. Apart from, was it the end of the Cambrian era, when all the coal was made?
Back a ways.
The Permian. Was it Permian? I think it was the Permian. At the end of the Permian era, when all the vegetation was destroyed by what could only be called a lack of oxygen and the highest heat that the planet's ever suffered, probably from a gamma ray burst or something like that. It baked the whole planet. We lost everything on it, and all of that no oxygen, very heavy wooded areas all turned to coal. So good luck when that happens again. But yeah, so pointing out the China problems is easy, but don't throw stones in a glass house, right? Where all of our economies and our 3 days of food in the supermarket, our supply chain, our distribution channels throughout our own respective countries, they're all right now facing some of the hardest hurdles ever.
But Dave, sorry to interject, but we all have learned, the one thing that we've learned is, you've got enough toilet paper in the garage, you're going to be okay.
Oh, yes. You don't need food.
Just fine.
Don't squabble over food. What you do, right? No, you beat someone
to the death.
You beat someone to death, right, for a toilet paper roll. That's what you do. Clearly,
I might have blood on my hands, but my underpants remain stainless.
No skid marks here on us surviving the zombie apocalypse. That's right. Oh my lordy, that's funny.
What? But where do you? No, but seriously, though. Sorry, but Dave. Where do you go from there? You know, I don't want to deter from your seriousness, which is warranted. But after that,
oh, you got to laugh.
Where do we go? This all comedy stores have to now close down. Okay, any satirical writer, that's it. You're done, because there's nothing you can further satirize on the human race. It's not possible. We're done.
Could you imagine, Mackie? Could you imagine the fiction writer who was ejected from the board, meeting rewrite of a zombie film when he said that the people were squabbling over toilet paper, and they go, "Don't be stupid. Get out. You're fired."
Silly man.
What was he thinking? No. And they're just tearing pages out of the script. And now he's at home going, "I told you." Waving his hand. "Leave room, herder boy."
Oh. Shakes his fist impotently at the sky. I shake my fist at the sky, I do.
"Leave room, herder boy." Yeah, that's it. That's damn executives. They never knew. I knew. Right. So I wanted to. I had to bring this story up because it's just who I am. I'm a Trekkie. I go, I love the Daleks. May the force be with you. I'm a Trekkie. That's gonna get everyone upset. So I'm a captain. Yeah, flying in their X-wing on Star Trek. So with the lightsabers.
Gandalf. It's Gandalf.
Yeah, Gandalf with a lightsaber battle, wasn't it? Yeah,
I think so. I think that's right.
Yeah, the TARDIS.
Sounds right.
Yeah, it does. Clearly.
It sounds about. Yeah, we're there.
They need a crossover movie.
Clearly, that's what they need.
That's what they need.
The Daleks have formed an alliance with the Predators and the aliens. Oh no!
Yeah. That's what happened. So Captain Kirk's, he's flown into space. We all know him as Captain Kirk. The actor William Shatner, and he set a new record. And that being a 90-year-old veteran of count. The record is he's 90, right? The oldest man in space. But yeah, that'll be surpassed soon. And hopefully when they retrieve everyone off the planet for some reason. And I'll get to that. I mean, this is the Blue Origin space flight. And that is in Bezos' own ship, which is, created, which only just goes past the declared height of actual space. So it's not entirely, inky black outside as the astronauts that went to the moon had spoken about, and other astronauts that went into real space. But yeah, he was in a zero-G environment and he orbited, so that's something. But having said that, I watched the 10 minutes and 17 seconds of them all in 0Gs, and that was interesting because it's a little longer than you get with the Vomit Comet that does the parabola. And that's interesting. But it was only 3 to 4 minutes of weightlessness is all they got, to be honest with you, right? So you couldn't even film a scene from a movie in that amount of time. It wasn't that, he survived the hard landing, so not a soft landing into the ocean, but a hard landing into the desert. Not that he'd survived that either. I think he's a trooper and a champion. But it was what he said in an interview afterwards. And I'm going to say, finally and luckily, he is getting on. And if there wasn't this sudden urge to get the human race into space right now, he would not have been able to do it.
That's true.
He would have missed the window, right? The window just happened to be now. I have to say, like the Simpsons say that the chimps get smarter when they go into space, right? Strange things happen to people when they go into space. And his remarks during a return interview, I think it was PBS, have raised a lot of questions. But here at Shiny Side Out, we have been onto this for years. And that's what his answer in reference to. Every once in a while, something alerts us, that's Meki and I, to goings on whose intentions were meant to be secret. They give it away, little wisps here and there, little drip, drip, drips, accidentally sometimes. But it doesn't take many of these plain sight things, air quotes, to add up. And little slip-ups from people in the know from time to time help. Shatner seems to have let the secret out that we heard Elon kind of let out, but restrained himself from completing a sentence, and that is a catastrophe which is going to happen soon and is the sole reason for the urgent building of capable machines to get us to another planet soon. So, too, were the seed banks and the military and continuation of government bunkers. Each of these had a meeting in which it was decided that this was the best outcome. While Shatner doesn't say when, the race deadline stated by Musk must be a giveaway as to the timeline. I read that verbatim. That's what I'd written. I prepared that. When I saw him saying that, fragility of humanity and the upcoming catastrophe, I say, what? Was there no backup question? Did the interviewer not go, hang on a minute, what catastrophe? Or run out of the studio screaming out through the window, Simpson-esque style. What does he know now? I mean, he was in there with Bezos, right? He flew that mission with Bezos. He knows. There's a conversation that's been had. Yep. So, I wonder, and I have to question, I wonder when. And let's hope it's only that they're going to run out of toilet paper, Mickey.
And that's enough to move to the dark side of the sun. But if you go at night, it's
it's much better.
So
it's cooler at night, right?
It's much cooler. It's really no, sorry, John 121. It was the low Earth orbit, I think.
Yeah, it is low Earth orbit. Yeah.
So no, they did not leave. They actually didn't enter vacuum. All right, it was quite thin though.
There's a line. Really I forget. I'll tell you what the line is.
Yeah, cool.
When I've looked it up.
But yeah, it was low Earth orbit. And they only achieved, like they've said, weightlessness or gravitational free fall for a few minutes, and then they dived back into the atmosphere.
The Kármán line. I knew that.
That's it. They skipped across it. So think of a storm skipping across a pond. It's sort of like that.
Yeah.
Except on the atmosphere. So, having said all of that, though, this is not new. It's not the first time that happened, and it's the last. We've discussed this many times before. The Egyptians told Solon, that the Greeks are children because they can only remember one flood. When there have been so many catastrophes. The Maya believed this is the fifth world. There were 4 worlds before this. They were all destroyed by different means. The Hindus have believed that there are many death cycles or world ends that we have witnessed. We have shown in previous shows that every culture on the planet has a catastrophic flood story, which in my mind means the last catastrophe we suffered here was in fact a worldwide flooding event. Now, we believe very firmly it was the impact of an object into the Indian Ocean, because we followed the stories around the globe, and
that's right.
And what they told is makes the most sense. Plus, there is an impact in the Indian Ocean, and it was at the time when the Ice Age was still in full swing. And what happened was, so yes, you had the impact of the object, whatever it was, which of course led to tsunamis, etc., etc. It also led to quite a bit of debris in the atmosphere. It also led to a lot of humidity in the atmosphere, so a lot of rainfall. But what it also did, it shattered and led to a great melting event of the glacial lakes across, especially the northern hemisphere of the world. Massive lakes, glacial lakes that simply broke and flooded the land. So it was truly an overall flooding event with many different causes for the extra water to occur. Now, the trigger was the impact in the ocean, but it led to massive precipitation, but also enormous tsunamis, and also the breaking up of the glacial lakes, which like inland seas almost, and then to quite strong melting events as well, due to the increased volcanic activity, and then oddly enough, a nuclear winter, which is the reverse of it, and all of those things together eventually then led to the destruction of the global, maybe even solar civilization that was in full swing at the time, because the evidence for that is all around us. You just have to open your eyes. But yeah, look, Dave, I don't know. We've got some interesting comments here in the
chat.
In the chat, around this, and but I mean, it could be an impact. It could be. There's quite a few celestial objects that are coming our way. If you keep up with the scientific magazines, journals, astrophysics, there are a lot of near-Earth objects. They're coming, in fact, very close, right? But it doesn't have to be that. It could be. I mean, look at Dave. Just before the show, Dave showed me this great site he goes to, which shows you seismic activity as on the globe in a really great 3D visual representation. It's really awesome. And there's a lot happening, and in fact, amazingly so. So there's a lot of tectonic activity. It could be that. I mean, what comes our way?
It isn't named.
In that particular.
Yeah. The catastrophe this time around has not been named. Look, we could simply have a gamma ray burst that bakes one half of the Earth, because whatever side of the Earth it is like a spotlight shining onto a ball, that side is going to get absolutely baked. We don't know if that's it. We don't know if it's it may be earthquakes, if someone could predict that far enough in advance. If it's a meteor, we don't know. We just don't know. Are aliens coming to wipe us all out? We don't know that. We just don't know. No one knows. Well, no one's telling us.
The Maya. So the Maya said that the last world, and this is in agreement with everybody else on the planet, was destroyed by water, and they believe the fifth world, this world, is going to be destroyed by fire. Right? So is it fire? I don't know. Yes, probably. But fire in what form? I mean, we have seen massive fires already. Is that? Are we talking about? I mean, look. It is conceivable that the world will catch fire. And we'll talk about the massive forest fires, etc., right? And certainly that could go on.
Now, when Musk was asked, well, why not just the moon? He eventually responded with the words, "It's not far enough away."
Maybe.
Well, that were his words, and he was attempting not to say the actual cause, but rather rephrased it in a way that he could get away with not saying what it was. Is rather clever. He's not a great public speaker, but he finds just the right words to use. And I think,
interesting,
whatever it is, if the sun was going to expand to a red dwarf, right, or a red giant, then the Earth would be vulnerable to that. But I think we'd have a lot of time, even as it began, because it's not an instantaneous, pop, and there it is. It's its new size. It's a slow growth, and I think we still have enough time to bother with that. Still muck around and develop things. The R&D could continue.
But if the sun were to go into a giant for argument's sake, in fact, any apart from massive flares or gamma ray bursts, right? anything that happens with the sun would be catastrophic for the entire solar system. And it doesn't matter if you make it to Pluto; it still won't help you.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You know.
So,
but if it is
the question is,
the
question is still out there. We don't know what it is. Now, you wouldn't, if I was going to be logical about it, and you can't see a gamma ray burst coming. You can see the pop of the star when the light occurs, but then the gamma ray burst comes because it's an EM wave. It comes at the point when the star pops, right? So you wouldn't be able to see it in advance. Even though we're looking back in time, we can't see that there's one coming. Even though we're looking at a star from a million years ago and it pops, we can't find a way of being able to see that it popped yesterday until the light gets here. So you have to draw that way. You have to put a line through that. Well, it can't be that, right? What else could it be? And for them to have, these rough dates around, trying to get there by 2029 or 2036 or what have you, right? It kind of gives you a little guide. And if you know anything about what those dates mean, April 13th, for instance, on both years, then, you should be able to find an answer you might be looking for. But I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm saying that's my current guess without saying the words. And these are only guesses. Until there's a news report that says it, which they never do anyway, well, then it's up for grabs. There isn't any way of doing it. But in the meantime, Mackie, in the last 15 minutes of the first hour, I wanted to say, I heard the term this week, broken and corrupt society.
Oh, that must be somewhere else, Dave.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, you're right. It's wherever the listener isn't. Sorry, is. No, isn't. Yeah. It exists wherever the listeners, whoever hears me speak these words, it's wherever you're not, right? It's not wherever anyone lives. So I want to shed some light on what our world, its politics, and the shaping of the overwhelmingly large companies have to do with this concept of broken and corrupt society. Think back to the days when the companies were not larger than the governments, especially in spend and maybe even employee count, before globalism and way before social media and the mining giants. There was minimal coercion from companies to get their way, apart from the unions acting on behalf of their members, using strike action to cripple our societies into submission. I used to work for a union, right? And that was really the tool they had. They had levers, and that was pretty much it. People would protest, and the lobbyists then became a thing, forming the thin edge of the wedge to build empires, lodge high tax complaints, and to get large projects in and out without scrutiny. The timeline might have been different in your country, but generally speaking, this has grown so large that some companies have a larger budget than an entire country now. Yes. An equally large influence on laws, taxes, and approvals, and turn the other way politics. That's right, I forgot to put air quotes in it. Even as far as claiming independent victory of nation voting swings by placing a new person in the chair of government. I pause for Mickey's comment if he has one.
Yeah, I do. Look, in fact, what I know is that, and you come to the nations in a second, we have the worst system in the world, Australia. There's no oversight. There's no, in fact, you're only allowed to know about it a couple of years after the fact, and then you can't really prosecute anyone because that wouldn't be fair, right? Because we've moved on now. That's a different world. In Australia, if you want to be a corrupt politician, you've got to be here. You have to be here. We don't even have. This is really interesting. We don't have any oversight. So in America, for example, I'll give you a simple example, because everybody knows America. You've got the Senate, you've got the Congress, you've got the presidential office, you've got the three powers there, right? And you got several committees, and you got a bureaucracy, and they're all looking over each other's shoulder. That's what happens there, right? And there's oversight and committees, appropriations, budgeting, etc., etc. In Australia, there is no federal corruption body.
No.
State-wise, each state, so New South Wales and Western Australia, the territories too, they have their watchdogs. ICAC in New South Wales, for example, right? And those are the organizations that are investigating politicians for wrongdoing, for corruption and whatnot. Doesn't exist on the federal level. Mm-hmm. Just let that sink in for a second. Let it sink in.
It means that there's no independent court of in criminal investigation for any corruption that might occur at a federal level, only state level. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and it is. And I want to give you a simple example here. So right now, Gladys Berejiklian, the ex-premier, she was the primary or the head minister for New South Wales. She stepped back. She had to resign because ICAC, the corruption watchdog, said we are investigating you. And she had said president, in the past. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's correct. She had set a precedent that in cabinet, one of her previous members of government had been also on an investigation. She said, no, if you're under investigation, you have to resign. Okay, you're not guilty, but there's the shadow of a doubt. And now that she herself is on an investigation, she had no choice but to resign. Now she didn't want to resign, but kudos, I guess, for sticking to her own ethics here, which is commendable for politicians.
And I think she's also resigned. The deputy resigned for the same, a very similar reason.
Yeah, we don't know, right?
It hasn't kind of made it out yet, but
so it's something. I don't want to start any rumors, but
allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. But if the same were to happen, so and we've seen this. There was the chief, not the chief justice, but what's the word in Australia? The guy who held the highest legal seat in government. It's like from a
yes, I know. Yeah,
he was accused. Now, I'm not saying he did it, but he was accused of rape. So that was an accusation, right? But they left him. In fact, okay, he resigned from that post, but he was given another post, and now he resigned over something else. Mm-hmm. In federal government, these investigations mean nothing. You can stay in your seat, in your governmental, in cabinet, while you're being investigated for whatever crime they can think up, right? And that is really quite astounding if you think about it. So state governments, they're very much accountable, well, to a certain extent anyway. Whereas federal governments in Australia are not accountable at all. Not a little bit, not less, not at all.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Look, it's crazy. In America, I know that the next topic has been addressed to only a very minor extent, and that is political donations. It's the bugbear of both Becky and I. We can't stand the fact that there's not the oversight that we expect to see. Yeah, some of it's made publicly, and some isn't. I think someone donate money directly into a bank account from anonymous sender, and that was the last resignation that we saw of the person who was allegedly accused of rape, Becky, to fight his case. Someone donated anonymously $1 million for his case, right?
Correct. It wasn't the rape allegation. It was
the other allegation to fight that.
Correct.
Yeah, and
that broke his back eventually.
Yeah, that's right. And now,
yeah, but guess what? If he fights it successfully, he'll pop up again.
Yeah, that's right. You can only imagine, Becky, if someone someone donated money to me, how the tax office would view that as an income and tax me on it. They go, where'd it come from? I don't actually know. It's anonymous.
It just appeared. I mean, I think
so. I started spending it.
That's
Did you make inquiries with the bank? No. Why would I do that? It's actually illegal. It's actually illegal to spend money if you don't know the origin of it.
You're correct.
And you're responsible for it.
In Australia, it is illegal.
Yeah.
Yes. So if there was a banking error and the money is gone, you're liable to pay it back.
That's right. If you spend it, which people have done. Someone ended up with 6 figures in their account. Someone who probably never would come in contact with that quantity of money.
I won lotto. I didn't even buy a ticket. Woo-hoo!
I know, right? How good is this world? Thank you, Jesus, right? And they spent the money, and they had to go to jail because they couldn't get it back, right? So donations, political donations from companies seem so large these days, to me anyway, as to match their expectation of positive outcomes should the result of the elections work in their favour. The numbers are staggeringly, I almost said that correctly, large for this privilege of influence and favour. For why else would a company make such donations? And in some cases to both parties, hedging their bets. Efforts to separate money, donations, advertising, and countering the opponents has gone nowhere. Mudraking was frowned upon, but is now foremost, along with the pre-election lies, misinformation, and claims of Russian collusion. I'll give you two guesses who that was about, which are all false, by the way. There was nothing in them at all, and it's all come out now that they're all false.
Yeah, no, we had the retraction and the statements, and nobody ever apologized for it.
And no one is in jail for falsifying information to the federal bureaus.
No.
Nothing. All done. Tied up, Mickey. Clean case. Closed. Yeah, was it clean and shut or something?
Nothing to see. Move along. One law for the rich, one law for the poor.
So remember that phrase I said, and turn the other way politics, right? So the dirty side of politics is so awful to observe that it really paints a picture of the true nature of the politicians that endorse this behaviour. Is it no wonder why they turn out so bad when they get into power? That they were so willing to show their evil cards during the race. This is what astounds me. They're so beneath the level at which they should be presenting the country as, evil, twisted people that are willing to sell their grandmother. And when they get in, what are they going to do, a 180 and turn into God, right?
She fetched a good price, though, I tell you.
Yeah. That bought me a lot of votes, that did. So for me, I'm going to be a Grandpa Simpson and say, for shame, politicians. For shame! Stop the lies, stop the slander, remove parliamentary privilege, make them honest, and remove donations. In fact, on the money front, they should be forced to live on minimum wage only. Be filmed, how's this? Be filmed the entire time, live to air, 24/7, every conversation, make it all public. Isn't this what we really pay them for?
And we have the tech to do it. I'm all for it. It would be the most watched reality show ever. It'd be great for ratings.
Imagine the ratings.
Don't start your car on Monday. It's my advice. I love the leader. I love the leader.
I love the leader too, Mackie.
Too late.
I love them more. Is that it? I clearly love the leader more than you, right? So,
I don't know.
Take him. Take him. Wow, there's the break. This is David Mackey's Shiny Side Out. This is our 500th show. We're going to celebrate after the top of the hour, okay? Stay tuned and make a donation to the station. Thank you.